You went back to your favorite restaurant, the one you'd been going to for years. The menu was smaller, the prices were higher, the owner didn't say anything about it, neither did the news. You didn't think much about it at first. Places change, maybe they were trying something new, maybe business was slow, but then you noticed it happening somewhere else, and then somewhere else again. The same pattern, smaller menu, higher prices, silence. Something had shifted, you just didn't know what. This happened quietly enough that no headline announced it. But if you paid attention to where you ate, you saw it clearly. A dish you loved disappeared from the menu without explanation. The restaurant you'd visited every Friday now closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. The hours got shorter, the specials stopped appearing. Prices climbed without any announcement, just reflected in the numbers on the page. Your neighborhood had a collection of small restaurants, the kind that had been there for years, that people relied on, that felt like part of the routine of living somewhere. And then one by one they started closing. Some went out of business entirely, others stayed open but became shadows of what they were. Fewer tables, fewer options, fewer places to eat. The menu didn't just shrink, it became a signal that problems were mounting underneath. Structural issues. Things nobody was discussing on the news but everyone was experiencing at the dinner table. You probably assumed the obvious explanation. The restaurant owner ran out of money, supply chains got complicated, ingredients became more expensive. Those are the reasons restaurants fail, right? But here's what actually changed. The kitchen didn't get more expensive, it got emptier. In American restaurants, a significant portion of kitchen workers don't have legal status. They work in the back, out of sight, doing the labor that makes the food possible. Cooks, prep staff, dishwashers, people without papers who showed up every day and made the kitchen function. Then enforcement started, immigration raids, workplace checks. Suddenly, people stopped appearing for their shifts, not because they quit, not because they found better jobs, they disappeared from the system. The materials remained, the equipment stayed put, the recipes didn't change. What vanished was the hands that turned those things into meals. So the owner faced a choice. Keep the full menu with half the staff, which means food sits in the window getting cold, or shrink the menu to what fewer hands can actually produce. The menu got smaller not because ingredients ran out, but because the people who knew how to prepare them did. It's like an empty barber shop with 4 chairs but only one barber. The space didn't disappear, the tools didn't vanish, but one person can only serve one customer at a time. The line grows longer, the price per haircut goes up. The problem isn't the chairs, the problem is the absence of hands to fill them. You might think a single restaurant's problem stays contained to that restaurant. If one place cuts its menu, another place fills the gap. Competition handles it, the market adjusts. But enforcement doesn't target one kitchen, it moves through a neighborhood, a city, a region all at once. When immigration raids happen, they don't announce which restaurants they're hitting, they just happen, and suddenly across the same area at nearly the same time, multiple kitchens lose workers. The taco place loses 3 people, the Italian spot loses 2, the diner loses the line cook who'd been there for 8 years. So the owner of the Italian place doesn't think her problem is unique. She notices the taco place has a smaller menu now, she sees the diner's hours changed, and quietly, without making an announcement, without putting up a sign, she does what they did. She shrinks her own menu, she raises prices slightly, she adjusts her hours. It spreads silently, simultaneously, without any news coverage because there's no single event to report. Just 1,000 small decisions happening at the same time, all in the same direction, all driven by the same invisible pressure. You didn't notice because nothing was announced. The contraction just happened, like a blackout spreading block by block. You don't realize the power is out until your own lights go dark. By then, the problem is already everywhere. You might think the big chains are different. McDonald's, Burger King, the national brands with systems and resources and corporate backing, they can weather what kills a small family restaurant. They have money, they have logistics, they have leverage. But they need kitchen workers too. When the labor pool shrinks, wages have to rise to fill the gap. Someone has to staff those kitchens. If undocumented workers disappear from the system, restaurants have to recruit and pay documented workers more or rely on fewer people working harder. Neither option is free, both cost money. The small restaurants feel it first. They can't absorb higher labor costs, they can't cut hours and survive, they close. But the pressure doesn't stop there, it moves up the chain. The regional chains start feeling it next. Then the national brands, they don't close as quickly, their systems are more resilient, but the cost still arrives. It arrives at the menu board, it arrives at your bill. A hamburger costs more now, fries cost more now, the drink refills that used to be free get charged, hours get cut, limited time items disappear. Breakfast service ends at 11 instead of noon. They're not making less food because ingredients got scarcer, they're making less food because they have fewer hands to make it with. The gap that started in one kitchen spreads across an entire industry, and it reaches you, not as a news story, as a smaller menu and a bigger bill. This isn't a restaurant industry problem, this isn't about supply chains or inflation or market cycles. This is about what happens when a crucial, invisible layer of labor disappears. A cook showed up to a kitchen one morning and didn't stay, not because the job changed, not because the pay got worse, because the system around that work became hostile, because enforcement made it too risky. That kitchen quietly shrank its menu. It had to. The food that required 5 hands now required 3, and 3 hands can only produce so much in a shift. That shrinking traveled. One restaurant's contraction became a signal to the restaurant next door. That signal spread across a neighborhood, then across a city. Menus got smaller all at once. Prices climbed all at once. Hours shortened all at once. And that wave kept traveling. It moved from small restaurants to chains, from the back of the kitchen to the front counter, from the kitchen's labor problem to your wallet. The menu didn't just lose items because someone decided to simplify. The menu was signaling that someone who made it possible had disappeared. The higher prices weren't just corporate greed, they were the cost of replacing invisible labor with scarcity. You felt this in real time, you experienced the contraction without understanding its source. The smaller menu, the higher bill, the shorter hours, these weren't random changes, they were the visible markers of an invisible person's absence. Did your favorite dish disappear because the restaurant couldn't afford the ingredients? Or because the person who knew how to make it was gone? Because those are two different problems, one is about money, one is about people, and the solution to each one is completely different.